Thank you everyone for joining. Welcome to the Talkie Turkey Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Manny the Commission Menez. Of course, I'm joined by Hot Cup of Coffee Joe Cody Williams.
Yes, good evening.
Yeah, I'm all tongue-tied today. And of course, Mile High Tim Lewis. I'm a little rattled today, but welcome, guys. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
you.
Understandable, Manny. You took a big L, unfortunately, so I can understand where your head's at.
Yep. As you can see, I have a image behind me of my fantasy football season that's being represented. It's down with the Titanic. That's the way it goes. You have a great year. You're powering through. You draft great players like Raheem Mostert and Mike Evans, and then you trade them in week 4. Kenneth Walker, and just
trade them all away.
Trade them all away because you don't want to win. I guess that's the way it goes. So, the people who are the recipients of those players, congratulations, good job. You obviously not all of them, but a couple of them have advanced to the next round, 2 games away from a title. So good for you. We just saw Monday Night Football, as we always do on a Monday night, and watch a miraculous game. Monday Night Football has been awesome this year. We saw Seattle take down the Eagles. The Eagles have been on a crazy slide. They've had some rough weeks, right, where they played the Niners, they played the Cowboys. They've had a very rough schedule last 3 weeks. I expected this to be the bounce back game for them. It didn't happen. Lost some money on the betting world too, so that was unfortunate. Luckily, my prop bet Metcalf hitting over 70 yards hit, so that's good. But other than that, crazy game. It had massive fantasy implications for our league as far as what happened in the Loser Bowl. We'll talk about that. I'm excited to talk about that. It literally came down to the last, 40 seconds, even 20 seconds?
28 seconds left after the touchdown.
Last 28 seconds. So incredible situation. Let's go to that game. Tim, you had let's talk about our matchup with you two guys. That Monday night played a role in what happened. Talk about Sunday's matchup against Cody and you, Tim. We talked about our 2 podcast members playing each other. There were some big plays that happened that led to Tim feeling like he's got a shot here, and then Kenneth Walker playing tonight. So play that out, Tim. How did you feel going into tonight's game?
I didn't feel that confident going into tonight. I was down by, I think, 28 points with Kenneth Walker against one of the best, if not the best, run defenses in the league. So I knew if there's anyone that could possibly do it on my team, other than Tyreek Hill, who was out this week, that Kenneth Walker was one that could possibly break a 50-yard touchdown run. But yeah,
23-yarder.
Yeah, which was, I guess, the longest run against the Eagles in a few years, which was kind of surprising, or maybe longest touchdown run. I forget exactly what they said, but he looked good. I mean, he ended up with over 100 total yards, averaged over 5 yards a carry, I think, or close to 5. I forget what his final stat line was. So he gave me, he made it a little interesting, but it was just too big of a gap to make up. And that I think the bigger difference was yesterday with I had Brandon McManus as my kicker, who I saw in the morning was going to be playing in some pretty high winds, so I tried to swap him out for Jake Moody. Cody ended up swiping Jake Moody from me because he had a higher priority. So that was, I got 1 point from McManus, would have gotten 9 from Moody. And then just the Jags offense, Cody had the Ravens defense. The Jags just gifted the Ravens defense some turnovers and left points on the board. A couple of long missed field goals from McManus, probably because of the wind, which I was worried about. So who knows how that would have played out. I don't know how much of a swing in our league. Defenses can still get points for keeping yardage low and getting turnovers. So I don't know. It would have taken a lot of right bounces for me to win, and I would have had to make some better waiver wire plays. I said last week, didn't like my chances to begin with, and I predicted I would score 70. I got 76. So
yeah,
I was close on that. That's about it.
Yeah, you're very close to that target there. I would say when it came to going into tonight, yeah, I saw you had Kenneth Walker, but Cody had Lockett and Goddard going. I thought that would kind of balance it out, but Walker actually had a great touchdown, a great run, and I was like, oh, and they're kind of keeping Goddard in check because the Eagles' offense didn't look great all night, and Lockett really wasn't getting that much from Drew Lock. We know that wasn't going to happen, so it's like, oh well, Tim might have a chance here, but yeah, it wasn't meant to be. I really want Cody to talk about the gamesmanship with this kicker situation because as you posted that picture on our chat, I was like, wait, Cody dropped Moody, picked him up. Explain this to the people because you really had some gamesmanship going on here with Tim because before you joined the call, Tim was like, I don't know what the hell happened here with this kicker situation. So you're going to have to explain how this went down the Friday before the games went down.
Moody was a kicker I drafted, the rookie kid out of Michigan. I was watching some tape on him in the offseason. He really impressed me. So he was the guy I targeted in the late rounds for our league. And he was the guy he could drill deep, in a good offenses, or in a good offense, can drill deep field goals. And so he's just a guy I wanted on my team. When the 49ers were on a bye, I cut him, and, Andrew picks him up. And so he's got Tucker and Moody. So I spent a week without a kicker, just trying to wait until Moody got dropped again by him. And then, I had some wins banked up. I was locked into the 2 seed, so I can kind of wait. Andrew wasn't dropping him. So I picked up the Rams kicker. And then finally on like Friday afternoon or Saturday, maybe Andrew finally makes a move and drops him. And so it's like, okay, now's my chance to pick him back up. Not even thinking anyone else was looking at making a claim for a kicker. I put a $0 bid on him. To swap out, the Rams kicker for Moody and get him back on my squad, get some 49er love going, some positive karma. And I had no idea. I didn't even check the report. I just assumed no one's going to make a move. I have him. I checked my roster in the morning. Yep, there he is in my lineup. Good to go. And then Tim posted a picture that he had actually tried making that same move and put in a claim for him. And I had no idea until an hour ago. And Moody ended up outscoring the Rams kicker. The Rams kicker missed 2 field goals. So I think Moody outscored him by 5. It really could have swung things. If he had Moody, that's 8 points for him, and I would have lost 4. That really could have swung our matchup around. And and it was completely because of this arbitrary tiebreaker within the FAB system. So I didn't even know how far ahead I was of him or how far behind Tim was, completely by accident. But I'm glad it just happened to work out in my favor. And I'm glad Tim, as I've said, is a fantasy player I respect. So I'm glad we had the same mindset. Great minds think alike. It's good to know a move that he was trying to make, I made as well. And I just barely beat him to the punch.
I mean, it wouldn't have been enough still, but it would have made it a lot more interesting at the, watching that Monday night game. Cause I kind of didn't expect much from Lockett, especially once I knew Geno Smith was out.
Yeah.
And even if he was playing, I didn't know if Lockett would do much, and I wasn't sure about Goddard. But still, just like I said, I just knew it would have taken a superhuman game from Kenneth Walker for me to win. So, but
he was breaking tackles and turning some 3-4 yard gains into 10-12 yard ones. But that last drive, because they were gonna have to start throwing, it was just they had Charbonnet in the whole drive. So that kind of is when I finally relaxed a little bit.
Yeah, I needed it to go to overtime. That was like my only backup chance, but it's still, the only chance I had was if he had a 50-yard touchdown or longer. It's a 17-point play or whatever, 14 points in our league, whatever it is. So yeah.
And in fairness to you, you had Tyreek Hill, so he was out, unfortunately, Sunday morning. And so that really affected him. He's been the guy really carrying your team for a big part of the season. And so I ended up winning 90-76. But of course, with the healthy Tyreek Hill, we saw what Waddle did. I mean, Hill could have done even more damage than that. So who knows? Yeah,
I was hoping. And then Achane still once again barely on the field, and I didn't
understand Waddle, that and that scoreline. Why would they not have him in the game? It was very strange.
Yeah, well, I mean, Waddle was the main beneficiary. Your opponent, Manny. So that was. I was hoping. We talked about it last week. Like maybe if Hill's out, Achane will get a little bit more work, but he might have gotten less work. then
he was a game time decision as well with that toe injury.
Yeah.
So once they had the game kind of in hand, I could see why they just played it safe with it. He's already had such a ridiculous injury history this year.
And even Mostert, he had a couple touchdowns, but they weren't really running the ball that effectively. I think Mostert had like 40 yards on I don't know how many carries, almost 20. So
20, yeah,
it wasn't
two touchdowns.
Yeah, it was just it was a passing game. Yeah.
Touchdowns are big in our league, and Mostert's got a ton of them. Number 2 running back on the season.
He's got 20 of them.
Yeah. Is he the touchdown leader, or is it right behind McCaffrey?
I actually don't know.
McCaffrey's probably got the most overall, I would imagine, but I think Mostert might have more rushing.
Because
McCaffrey's caught, probably at least 5 or 6.
A handful of.
And I don't know if Mostert's got.
I think he's got 2, two receiving touchdowns, but mostly rushing on the short year. He's definitely their goal line back. They made that very clear. Cody, you got big games from Jahmyr Gibbs, someone you drafted in the draft season and came out to fruition and provided you some good points.
Finally, my number 2 pick, yes.
Yeah, came through. And then Kyren Williams, too, coming back from injury, has been big stud for you. So great production out of your running back for this week. So good for you. Tim, when I saw Amari had that big touchdown on Sunday with Joe Flacco, I was cheering. I was sitting at the Verizon store watching, and I was like, oh, yes, all right, Joe Flacco, let's go. We'll get to my quarterback dilemma that I was in. But
it took some of the sting off. He was my replacement for Hill. I don't know if I would have had him in the lineup if Hill was playing. It's hard to say what I would have done, but that definitely helped. But just I was hoping that with Kyren Williams, losing a couple fumbles, that he would get punished, and I think he sat out like a drive, but then he still ended up with I don't know how many carries. So
fed him the ball. Yep.
You lost obviously 6 points right there with his 2 fumbles, and he still got like 20. So
he still had 27 carries, over
27 carries.
Yeah,
and the touchdown, and then
also beast.
27 carries, 5 receptions. So he had 32 touches on the game.
Yeah, there we go. Just as we all thought would happen at the start of the year. Kyren Williams.
He had more carries than all 3 of my running backs combined, I think. Or maybe the same. I don't know.
It'd be close. It'd be close. Yeah, McVay's shown, even back to Gurley, that when he has a running back he likes, and last year late with Akers, he'll just keep feeding that one running back. It probably, doesn't help that Royce Freeman's your backup, so it's not really a lot of competition there for touches. But it's been successful in a positive offense, so you got to keep riding him.
I think he thought about punishing Kyren and put Royce Freeman in there for a drive, and I was like, "No, this guy sucks. Go back in, Kyren." So,
yeah. So, Cody, congratulations! You're on to the next round. We'll talk about your opponent coming up here soon.
Thank you very much. It's always a tough matchup, especially in the playoffs going against Tim. We've had some fun battles over the years, including some times in the finals. So I'm just glad to be past round 1 and on to round 2 and one more win to the finals. And then it gets real fun.
Oh yeah. My matchup, as I talked about with the quarterback dilemma, as I was rooting for Tim when Amari Cooper hit that big touchdown. I lost Herbert, every last week, everybody knows, broke his finger, had surgery. So I was in that quarterback hell that I've been in every year going into the playoffs, which I always try to avoid. It just never happens for me. So I was debating between Desmond Ridder, based off of the performance he had a week ago, Baker Mayfield, and Joe Flacco. I ended up on Tuesday's waiver day picking up Ridder and Baker Mayfield. So I had them there. Both on my roster, and so I was like, let it fester, let it sit, thought about it, started doing my research on who's playing the better defenses. I'm just trying to take a chance, right? It's a crapshoot at this point because of it. When you're picking up a quarterback at that tier, I would call him a tier 3 quarterback, you're just taking a shot in the dark. And I saw that the defense they were going up against, so Carolina's defense against Atlanta. Carolina's not that good. But then I saw the weather report that was coming in, and you saw the weather in the game was awful. So I'm like, I can't go with Ridder. Thursday night, I end up pulling, a fast one on myself. I'm like, you know what? I can't trust Baker Mayfield. He going up in Lambeau. He doesn't. And that Packers defense is that passing defense is pretty good. I could see him having, a flock. The Packers passing defense has been good. Their run defense hasn't been good. Their pass defense has been good.
Okay.
And I was
At
like,
times.
okay, well, at times, but I expected Rashard White to have a big game. I was like, oh, Rashard White's going to put up 25 points easy.
Oh, he did.
No doubt in my mind that he was going to do that. But Baker Mayfield went off for 29 points, beat the Packers 34-20 in Lambeau. Baker's looked great, and shame on me for not trusting my gut, going away from that. It wouldn't have mattered as my opponent put up 144 points. And when you go up against Chat GPT, it's going to put the most optimal lineup out there, like a DFS lineup, and that's what I went up against, and it crushed me.
And in your defense, I mean, I could have picked up Mayfield. He wasn't even on my radar. I mean, like I knew that he's played pretty well, but I don't think anyone really expected except for maybe Chat GPT, maybe would have told me to pick up Baker Mayfield. But I try to play the real way. But I didn't think Mayfield was going to go have a career game in Lambeau. So he had perfect passer rating.
Perfect.
So
1-6.
just I would have beaten Cody if I had him in my lineup, but it never even really crossed my mind. I thought, Russell Wilson, I thought was a pretty good option against Detroit. Not so much, but so I saw you had Ritter in your lineup for a bit, and I was like, I almost was like gonna say something to you, like, are you really gonna start Ritter in Carolina?
I would. So that's a fantastic point, Tim. It's a fantastic point. And the reason I did it was so I could see Ritter there and tell myself, "You're an effing idiot. Why would you do that?" Right? It was like a reminder. Don't start that guy. So. It was right at the top of the list. Like you need to.
There was no scenario where I would have seen him. Like he's not going to have to throw the ball a lot against Carolina, so it's not like it's going to be a shootout or anything like that. I think that was the reason he had a pretty big game last week. It was kind of a back and forth game, if I remember right. So
with Drake London had a big game with him. Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah, overall,
where they really had a good connection. Yeah,
and Carolina's. I think I think you even brought it up one time before that they're a lot tougher at home, and especially with the weather. Like a lot of games were affected by weather this weekend, so that definitely didn't help either. So but I'm glad I didn't have to say anything. So
no. And the only reason I even considered it was the athletic aspect of it. The way I watched him the week before, he can run 50 plus yards and a touchdown. That's massive points, right? I mean, that right there is 15 plus points. So I'm like, okay, we'll get that. And then if you could throw a touchdown to Drake London, that might get me to that 15-16 mark where I'm just trying to get to. And Joe Flacco ended up being the guy I went with. And at the start of the game, I was like hating my decision because he started with -4 on the game after those picks and those sacks he took. I was like, great. But ended up having a pretty monster game. I mean, the Browns as a team, you look at them, they're dangerous. I mean, the way they play right now with even though they lost Nick Chubb, they have so much. They've lost a couple starters on defense. They're still playing great defense. I have their defense put up 14 points, and they've been very confident there. So the Browns are surprisingly, a team that probably the AFC should watch out for because you don't want to play them at home. They're a very, very tough team to beat. Where my team really faltered was Tony Pollard. I mean, the Cowboys game destroyed so many teams. I think the Cowboys-Bills game, everybody expected a shootout. I don't know if you guys did. I expected a shootout, and it just wasn't that. The Bills dominated end to end. Cowboys had nothing on offense. So teams that were, not just in our league, fantasy leagues, I was watching some of the trends going on Twitter and those things, or X now. People were furious at Dak Prescott and Jake Ferguson and other Cowboys players that they had. Tony Pollard, like myself, are like, man, they just can't get anything going. I mean, and if you invested a lot in Cowboys players this week, you really got duds. I mean, CD had, I think, 10 or 11 points, barely double digits, but it wasn't a typical CD Lamb game that he's been having over the season.
Yeah, their only touchdown. Yeah.
So it was that was a pretty bad one. No, my bright spots of Rashid Rice I held on to him this long, and he finally paid off, which I was happy about. So let's talk about Kansas City. Do you guys think that they've made that transition to actually have a number one wide receiver now? Is he it, or are they still trying to figure things out? Because we saw Kadarius Toney drop another ball where Patrick Mahomes just like laid into him on the sideline.
Yeah, it's just I don't know how many chances Tony's going to get. Feels like this has to be the last. Like he's going to be a healthy scratch next week. Like he's got to be, right. There's no reason.
They're so desperate for receivers, though. I don't think he can.
I know, it's just
who's the receiver not on the roster right now that they could pick up? I mean, there's got to be someone out there, right?
Off the top of my
but
head.
Then you're picking up a free agent and having to teach him the offense with 3 weeks to go in the year. I mean, how much are they going to impact the game?
Yeah,
it would have to be someone that's been on the team before or something like that. But I mean, I can't really think of anybody. But I mean,
Josh Gordon, is he still available? They still have his number? I think he spent some time in KC.
there you go.
That's true.
Go, Josh.
Yeah, I don't think
bring him back.
He's on the roster. And it can't be worse than a guy like, last week, the offsides thing, I've noticed it. They started to call that like regularly this week too. It's like they're trying to emphasize it now to say, see, we've been calling this all along. But, that was one thing, but then just, he's had so many drops. And when you have a drop that ends up in an interception, I don't remember if it was a pick six or I don't think it was, but still, it's just, he doesn't bring anything to the table. He hasn't made any noteworthy plays that weren't negative that I can think of. And yeah, their other receivers aren't really doing much either, but they're not making the kind of mistakes that he is either at the same time. Maybe they're not getting open, but it's just, So I don't know. It's just a very weird offense. Like Kelsey seems a little off too. I mean, he had a
last 3
epic
weeks
flop.
has been not great. Yeah,
that flop that he had where he tried to draw a penalty was just kind of pathetic. I don't know if you guys saw that, but he dropped a touchdown, and then on the next play threw it to him again, and he just totally soccer flopped. So it was it's kind of embarrassing for him. And of course, Taylor Swift wanted the flag, and if Taylor Swift wants a flag, then it's a penalty. But,
yeah.
Just a weird team.
Yeah. Well, we'll see where they go with that. Definitely Kelsey hasn't been good. Rashid Rice has been the guy that Patrick Mahomes has really been relying on the last 3 weeks here. So that might continue for the next few weeks here. We'll see what happens. When I look at my game, I put up 83, and Alex put up 144. Even if I put in Baker Mayfield and got me that extra 15 points that he put up, and I had Devin Singletary on the bench with 17 points, and I put him in for Pollard, that still puts me at 120 something, 120, 128, 129. I still don't beat Alex, so I'm not feeling too bad. Alex, this team was incredible. It was the highest score of the week, one of the highest scores of the season. So far.
It was up there. Yeah. I mean, even if you kind of looking closer at it, even if you're the commissioner, even if you found a way to just kind of add a second QB spot to your roster and then maybe another running back spot and just add those two guys in, I still don't think you beat Alex. That's kind of how tough it was for you and how much he ended up beating almost the whole league by. I mean, the next closest person, I think was, Rob, who he's going to go against, who put up 109, or I guess Ricky put up 115. But still, they're about 30 points away from catching up to Alex. So, you just happen to be the one person in the path of his path of destruction on his way to the title.
Oh yeah. It's exactly how I feel too. McCaffrey balling out. Jerick McKinnon, Waddle. Waddle left the game injured, but Pittman, Sam Laporta. I've been yelling at him, why Sam Laporta sitting on your bench all year long? The one game he finally decides to play him, it's against me. So,
here you go.
There you go. Have a taste of what you've been crying about. Yep.
I'd wager that just about anybody who, if anyone out there happened to be up against a combo of McCaffrey, Waddle, and Laporta this week, probably lost. Handily. So
I mean, even if you took McCaffrey out of his lineup, I mean, he still put up over 100 points without him and still wins the matchup.
Still wins the matchup season.
Yeah, the rest of his team was just stacked this week.
Yeah. No, he did a good job. So kudos to Alex. He's on to the next round. He's
Yep.
a longtime member of this league, and
first year I think he used someone else to draft though. But I mean, longtime member. He's been here for a while. It's always usually fun playing with him.
Oh yeah, there's gonna be some definitely major draft changes that happen this coming season. Most definitely.
Yeah.
Well, it's one thing to not draft your own team, but then to have, to not have to even make any moves all year just because it was such a perfect draft where no one gets injured. That's just
remarkable.
Pretty rare. Yeah.
Pretty rare. Especially for someone who's such a hardcore Eagles fan and would go heavy Eagles. And I know that's why when I saw this team, I'm like, that's not his team.
None on his roster.
He's got
Swift.
Yeah. Swift. Yeah.
But when he drafted him, he was the backup.
But he would have taken Hurts. I promise you. In that he would have taken Hurts if he was the one drafting him. So which it wouldn't have been a bad deal. But then it would have changed a lot of things
actually.
Yeah.
Mahomes hasn't really been that great, but
yeah.
Yeah. So
on to who he's playing next. So we get Romo versus Rob. That's another matchup that turned out to not be so close, but this is kind of what you expect when you get the 1 seed against the 8 seed. It's part of why I was trying to fight so hard at the end of the year to pass Rob up and take the 1 seed is to get the chance to play the 8. But yeah, Romo put up 67, Rob over 100 with 109. Hurts was sick with the flu, so there's concerns he may not play. Ended up playing. Is he 100%? Had rushing touchdowns, was still rushing. He looked fine out there. Put up 22 points. James Cook was really the key to his team, though. The trade he made, we all thought it was for Justin Jefferson. He swears it was for James Cook.
All right, let's talk about this no mamas trade because Rob is swearing up and down that he pulled the old Django move on us. Where if you've seen the movie Django, the doctor and Django go to Monsieur Candy's estate. And they're swindling a deal to get a fighter, right? So they're trying to buy a fighter, but what they're really gonna buy Django's wife. She was really the deal, not the fighter. That was kind of like a facade, right, or a cover up. So Rob claims the same thing, that Jefferson wasn't the real target; it was Cook. Get the hell out of here, Rob.
he's not serious. Come on. There's and if he is serious, I don't believe him at all. So that trade was clearly to upgrade his wide receiver. I forget exactly. So it was James Cook and Justin Jefferson for who did he trade away? Jalen Warren, Gus and Christian Kirk.
Correct.
Yep.
So yeah, it was to get Jefferson clearly.
Yeah.
And it's still, having Cook turn out to be, with the offensive coordinator change, turn out to be the workhorse was definitely a plus, but this was before that happened. So yeah, so I don't buy it, but hey, good for him. It was a good trade. Obviously it worked out better for him. Kirk got injured. Gus Edwards kind of lost his job, but now he's going to get it back by default because Keaton Mitchell tore his ACL. So yeah, but
things are looking up for Rob.
Yeah. So that James Cook, that was crazy out of nowhere performance for that guy this week, at least to me. So
yeah, he single-handedly took down the Cowboys defense. I mean, again, we talked about if you invested in Cowboys offensively and defensively, they stung you bad this week. So he torched them single-handedly. 179, 2 touchdowns. I mean, pretty incredible. Like
a Jamal Charles game back in the day.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah, felt that way watching it.
Yeah.
One thing with Rob's team that's not we've spoken about, but really haven't put a lot of attention is drafting of Rachaad White, right? I mean, Rachaad White was a very late round pick for him, not really under the radar for everybody. The guy's been a stud all season long. I mean, and Rob drafted him
6th round
in the 5th round. Yeah, so fifth round pick, and all the guy's done is produce. I look at his stat lines across the board. He's only had 4 weeks this year in fantasy with single digit fantasy points. Every other week, at least double digit fantasy points.
A lot of volume.
Yeah, he's had no competition. Yep. And the offense has been better, than like that was my main concern. It's not like I had him on my do not draft list, but just more like I don't know how good that offense is going to be. And
well, I mean, in the same vein of like running backs who aren't great but expected to get a ton of volume, I'm pretty sure that's probably why you made the move to draft Madison. Like kind of similar situation, just a better offensive environment, not a great running back,
right.
but you were expecting him to get the volume that White's getting.
And actually, well, he did get some volume. It just didn't do anything with it. So I definitely overestimated. I thought he was more talented than he is. So, but yeah, it was kind of the same thing. Yeah, I like not super talented running back, which Rachaad White's. I don't know. Maybe I probably underestimated him a little bit and overestimated Madison, but just expected a better offense with the Vikings for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Well, the offense did take a massive hit with Cousins going down. I mean, that's the reality.
But even prior to that,
even with Jefferson going down, if both those guys don't get hurt, the offense still produces, and it probably opens things up a little bit more for the running game. But once they both went down, it really focused. Teams could stack the box more against them.
Yeah.
But watching Chandler this week, just that sealed it for me. I made a terrible pick with Madison because he saw what Chandler did.
Oh yeah,
that's what an adequate running back can do in that offense, and Madison's just I don't know. I don't know what made me think he was going to be what I thought he was going to be.
You took a dart throw. I mean, with a good offensive line, you expect him to get all the production. I took that same approach with Tony Pollard. Great offensive line. Who's really behind him to take the volume? He's going to get 20 touches minimum. I'm like, this guy's going to get all the work. And the way he ended the season last year in the last 5 games, like, this guy is going to tear it up because that offensive line is so good.
Yep.
So I went to that same approach. It obviously didn't come to fruition. I had a lot of down games with him. That was the other reason I targeted Joe Mixon from Ricky, was because of the volume play. And it actually ended up working out good for me later in the latter part of the year. Last month, Joe Mixon's been great because of that volume. But again, it doesn't always work out. I mean, this is one of those cases where the volume for Rachaad White was there and the production was there. So maybe he's a lot better than we gave him credit for. Tim, you're right. Maybe we undervalued him at draft season.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Rob's got to be. Yeah, no, I was just saying, Rob, it's got to be feeling good about his team because Montgomery didn't put up the normal double-digit game that he does. Jefferson, A.J. Brown, single digits as well, which you're not used to seeing from those two. And then Kelsey, you already mentioned, he's had a couple poor games strung together, and he still managed to put up 109 points. So Rob's got a huge matchup going against Alex and his friends. So he's really got his team coming together here. If he can get his receivers to perform like you're used to, it's gonna be a fireworks show that we have coming up in the quarterfinals here.
Oh yeah, we got some very intense brother on brother action, which we had for this first round, right? Ricky against Javi. We'll get into the matchup next. Yep. And now we're gonna have another versus brother matchup for the semifinal. This will be real good. I will.
Yeah, real quick on Romo's team. 8 seed, he put up 67 points. His running backs kind of were hit and miss, and it seems like they missed a lot this week. He got 8 points combined from all 3 of them: Hall, Williams, and Etienne. It's honorable making the playoffs. You don't have to worry about being in the loser bowl. 67 points. Better luck next year, Romo. Anything else you guys have to add on Romo's team, really? I mean, he's won from the 8 seed, but it wasn't going to happen this year.
I know everybody was giving a hard time about Jordan Addison, but honestly, I would have made the same decision he made at wide receiver with Deontay Johnson go up against Indy and Jamar Chase. I mean, you don't bench those guys for Jordan Addison. I mean, especially when Justin Jefferson coming back. So
and no Cousins.
He made the right play. He just got snake bit by Justin Fields, who again threw a Hail Mary that should have been caught in the end zone, and guy catches it, falls to the ground, and kicks it out of his own hands right into
turns into an interception.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah. But it's Justin Fields' fault that he's no good. Come on.
I've been saying that all year. Yeah, I know. It's it wasn't he had, didn't have a great choice of quarterbacks this week with Fields against Cleveland, Lawrence against Baltimore. So obviously it turned out Lawrence was the better play, but it was kind of like same position as you, Manny, where he would have had to just make all the right moves basically to get the win. So
yeah,
it's not easy to do.
So. No, definitely not. So Romo, valiant effort. You're gonna join me on the ship back here for the season. All right, the season's done. But Rob's moving on and gonna be playing up against the person who beat me. So that's gonna be a great matchup here. But let's talk about the final winners bracket matchup. The brothers, Javi versus Ricky. I said I would make my decision on who my favorite brother was after this week, and Ricky, you've won my love. So congratulations.
What an upset.
What an upset. Well, we were talking about it last week, and Javi even was talking about it on our chat. Javi didn't want to play against Ricky. He saw the trend that Ricky's team make. We were talking about it before the show today, how Ricky's team has really morphed into this kind of little mini juggernaut here. He's got 2 players that he drafted that are still on his original team. The rest all acquired through trade and through waiver wire pickups. So, he put up 115 to Javi's 69. That's what she said.
Nice.
But Javi, even if Javi gets a good game out of Dak and it gets a good game he got 12 points out of CD, -1 from Dallas defense. Very, very heavily, we're talking about relying on the Cowboys as a whole. When you invest that much in one team, you're expecting them to produce back-to-back weeks in this critical time, weeks 14 through 16. It's hard to do. And you're going to get a letdown in one of those games. That, unfortunately, was this week for Javi. What did you guys see from that? You think he should have kept on that trajectory, or would you have done something different had you had that roster going, before the trade deadline?
It's hard because in the midst, he was, in the midst of like a 4-game win streak coming up into the trade deadline. So if things are going so well, it's hard to project and say like, oh, this is not going to work later on. Let me trade these guys away who are killing it right now. Especially Dallas defense is the #1 defense. He's had plenty of times where he had another defense picked up, and on his bench he sees Dallas put up 23 sometimes. So that's just hard to put up with. So I even though I would never take this strategy, I could see why he stuck with the team he did, and especially with that weather report, Josh Allen, turnover-prone quarterback in the rain. Oh, I can see him thinking his defense is ready for a 20-point day. So I can totally understand. And then what happened? James Cook goes for 34, something no one saw coming. So it caught everyone off guard. So I totally see why Javi stuck with what he had and why he went this route. What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, I think usually, if you have a good team where everything's working, you kind of stick with what got you there for the most part, unless there's some obvious reason not to. But sometimes you outsmart yourself, and if you panic and think, oh, these guys are going to have a bad game this week, and you put other guys in, and then that doesn't work out. Like I've done that before. I've been playing fantasy football for, I don't know, 15, 20 years now, and I've had those weeks where I've replaced a stud who had a bad matchup with marginal player, and it didn't work out at all. And so that was just a worst case scenario for Javi's team, basically. I mean, the Bills dominated the game. The Cowboys didn't really get a lot of possessions, didn't do anything on offense. His defense got negative points. I mean, when you get 15 combined points from 3 players that generally get them, I don't know, probably I would get 60 to 70 a week.
50 to 60 points a week. Exactly. Yeah.
It's just, that was just a game that I think very few people saw coming. But, like I said, it was just the worst possible scenario for his team this week. So not much, again, for him that he could have done. It wasn't really close. So there, what moves he could have made to get him a win, it would have had to be perfection, basically. So, just he just ran into a buzzsaw known as Ricky these days.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a great word, great nickname for Ricky right now, the buzzsaw. Yeah.
Ricky the buzzsaw. Yeah, I mean, Javi had some decent players on his bench. Higgins had 18, and Njoku had a big game, had 19. But I mean, when you look, he played Kittle instead of Njoku. I don't think anyone can blame him for that with how Kittle's been lately. And then Higgins with Chase there and a backup quarterback. Are you going to play him over McLaurin, over Lamb? I mean, I don't think so. And McLaurin had a great day as well. So.
McLaurin had a fantastic day.
Yeah, exactly. Especially once Brissett got in there. Yeah, so you can't really fault him for those moves and questioning, what he had. Jonathan Taylor on his bench, he was expecting. What did he tell you, Manny, that his team was getting upgraded or taking the level up? Unfortunately, he got hurt again, so Zach Moss was in his lineup, but he wasn't just the same Zach Moss from the beginning of the year. He lost some of the juice, more like Buffalo Zach Moss and early year Zach Moss.
Yeah.
Well, Zach Moss got hurt too, and I think it was pretty early in the game.
Okay,
he did still get him a touchdown, but it was in the first half, might have been the first quarter that it
was the touchdown play. He caught the touchdown in the left corner of the end zone, and he came off holding his wrist.
Okay,
I think he got horse collared.
Yeah,
I think, and so I mean, and even still, who knows? I don't know if he played the whole game. I don't think he would have made up the point differential there, but just
40 points he needed.
Bad luck. Taylor got hurt last week, was it, or
2 weeks ago?
No, it was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
a couple weeks ago. Yeah,
yeah, just bad luck with those Colts running backs this year.
Yeah.
So,
and then he's been kind of the same situation that I've been with when it comes to Garrett Wilson. 1 week playing great, the other week having crappy week. 1 week playing great, another week crappy week. He's dealing with it with Saquon, right? Saquon, because again, we talked about the volume monsters. He's a volume monster on that team, 100%. But when they play against good defenses and they got Tommy DeVito doing his, stupid stuff, New Orleans, a team like New Orleans is going to take exception to that and say, all right, beat us. And they're going to stack 10 guys in the box and see if Tommy DeVito can beat them. And sure enough, you're not going to do that against New Orleans.
The same defense has been, kind of banged up a lot of the year, but finally kind of started getting healthy recently, and they're playing at home. It's always a tough place to play, especially trying to run the ball against that defense. They're usually pretty tough.
So you talked about that flop that Kelsey did, Tim. Did you see that fake flop that Tommy DeVito did when he got hit? So he went running and he got hit and he went down like a soccer player. It was hysterical. So there's been a bunch of memes going around him that Tommy DeVito should be playing in the Italian soccer league, not in the NFL, because he got like grazed by the sideline and he went down like a soccer player. He was there and like just flopped on the ground. It was pretty funny.
I don't think I saw it. I didn't he get knocked out of the game though?
He did later, yeah. But so I guess because I think the play. This was before that.
Play. Yeah, I didn't really see much of that game. I was not remotely interested in it.
Yeah,
I kind of went how I expected to, but yeah.
Yeah, I can think the Saints players took exception with him flopping, trying to get a personal foul call, right? An extra 15 yards. So they said, all right, next time he does it again, we're really going to make him pay. And I guess they did. So I didn't see when he got taken out. I just saw, I was like, oh, man. So, yeah.
I don't know if I would necessarily advocate for that, but, I don't think if you're Tommy DeVito, I don't think you have necessarily earned, some of those calls yet. Patrick Mahomes might get those calls pretty easily, but I don't know if he might have to stick around a little longer to get those.
I just can't believe how many people are out there outside of the NFL world doing the Tommy DeVito, Paisana thing. And I saw the Good Day LA and good, today, the New York show and stuff. Like, man, this guy's been in the NFL for what, 5 minutes, and he's already being propped up as.
I mean, that's what happens when you play in New York, though. I mean, you're in that big market, an East Coast team. They're going to broadcast that out, and he's the Italian guy in the jersey,
Pay your own rent first, and then we'll talk.
And then he's got his agent, like in a zoot suit on the sideline. So.
Yeah, it's like a scene out of Goodfellas. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like you think he's got a Tommy gun in his jacket, probably. So, hey, he had a good game last week. Unfortunately, it was against your Packers. But then Baker Mayfield just had a way more impressive game than Tommy DeVito had. So
Tommy DeVito.
So maybe the Packers defense isn't that great, but the Saints is pretty tough.
Pretty tough defense. Yeah. Talk about Ricky's team. Ricky's team, excellent. I said it when we started talking about it. He's got two guys that from his original draft, which are Deebo Samuel and
Bills defense.
And he didn't even start the Bills defense this week. He started the Bengals defense. So he literally on his starting roster this week had one guy that he drafted, and the rest Brock Purdy through the waiver wire, which Tim's great recommendation that he gave him, and he listened. So Ricky, good job. Thanks for listening to the cast.
I wish I listened to myself, but glad someone else could reap the benefit there. So
Raheem Mostert, who's the number 2 running back on the season, provided by me. Again, that's why you're my favorite brother, Ricky, because I'm giving you gifts like this. CEH, a running back who really a lot of people have lost confidence in. He starts him and he puts up 15 points. DK Metcalf, again, acquired through trade for him. So wild scene. Mike Evans, again, on that same trade with Mostert that he acquired. Mike Evans is a top 5 wide receiver in the league this year. Contract year. I should have known better. Shame on me.
Yeah.
Shame on me.
Guy he picked up.
Yeah, Komet. Another guy Tim had for a while. Cole Kmet is a top 7 tight end on the season. I couldn't believe it. I was like, wait, what am I looking at here? And he's in the top 7 of tight ends. It's gross.
Yeah.
Well, that just shows you how gross the tight end position is, I think, more than anything.
Yeah.
Because he's had like, a few good games and a whole lot of duds.
A lot of gooses.
What did he do this week? He got him
9.
He got him a touchdown.
Yeah.
It's touchdown
with the tight end. That's all you need. That's all
I know exactly. I got a donut from Kincaid this week, so that's definitely huge. I was hoping that Purdy would give a little bit more to Ayuk this week. The Niners scored 45 points, I think, and Ayuk only got 3 catches for 30-something yards. So Debo was the recipient of that. So that Debo Purdy stack, when Debo's in there,
it's money.
It's deadly. Yeah.
I mean, we talked about with Javi's team, relying too much on one team. At what point? So, I mean, Ricky has Purdy and Debo. Javi had Prescott and Lamb. He just also had the Cowboys defense, who, I mean, prior to their game against Buffalo, they were the number 1 defense. At what point is it too many players from the same roster? Are you saying is 2 players okay, but 3 too many? Where are we kind of drawing the line here? And obviously it depends on the team. You're not going to have 3 Bears on your roster. But where do you draw the line? Because even the Cowboys,
I did at one point.
Oh, sorry, Tim. And now you're on the Titanic with Manny and Romo.
My season is
that's
gone,
right.
yeah.
That's why he's on the boat with us behind. Exactly.
I see him playing the violin up there.
Yeah.
But that's an excellent point. Yeah, I should never have done that. But nah, I think it's pretty rare. I think the Cowboys defense was obviously so good this year that it's like, okay, you can't drop them. Obviously, you have to start them. But I don't think he probably would have liked having to rely on those 3 players all year so much. Obviously, there were good weeks, but it's always dangerous. Like we saw this week with the dud they put up. But I think a quarterback wide receiver stack is pretty common. If you have a good one, like Rob's got Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown, that's been money for most of the year. A little bit down recently, but the thing with Debo is you don't have like with Lamb, Debo's not a traditional wide receiver.
No.
Like CeeDee Lamb and AJ Brown for the most part are catching passes down the field, slants, in routes. Debo's can take a screen pass and he can take it 80 yards. So there's not a lot of guys like him. So
he's a wide back. That's what I call him. He's a wide back.
Yeah, I mean we've seen it so many times where he catches a short pass. It's no sweat off Purdy's back, and then Debo breaks a bunch of tackles, and 70 yards later it's a touchdown for both of them. So so it's a pretty good stack to have right there, but it's not always good to have a stack like that unless it's working like it does there. So, yeah.
So Cody, you make a great point. Is how much do you rely on it? Now, do you take a Baker Mayfield Evans stack? That's going to obviously be fraught with more danger as the volatility is going to be up and down. I think what you see that when you go for that quarterback QB stack, you're looking for consistency, right? Consistency across the board. Rob's getting it a ton from Sirianni because he puts the ball in Jalen's hands and Jalen trusts AJ Brown. I think the same thing here with Shanahan. Shanahan trusts Brock, and Shanahan knows he's going to put the ball in Debo's hands as long as he's healthy. So that really plays into that whole factor. It's not only the quarterback wide receiver, but it's the coach allowing that to flourish. And in these two situations, it flourishes as well. And the CD Dak stack has been great all year, but I mean, I don't trust Mike McCarthy. That's, if I had to pick, between those three teams, those three coaches, I would look at it as a group. I would trust Mike McCarthy the least,
right,
rather than Sirianni and Shanahan. So that's how it would look.
It's just an interesting point because, we do have both those guys stacking. I mean, if Ricky happened to have the 49ers defense, obviously it would have kind of turned out a little differently, but they, two guys on the same team, I guess if it's a QB tight end, QB receiver, it makes some sense. But then we were kind of talking to Javi about how risky it is. And he just had one extra piece, which was that defense who, has been good all year until this point. So I was wondering where you guys kind of like to draw the line there. Maybe it's matchup based that you play it. I don't know. So it is something to kind of monitor going forward here.
Yeah, normally it would be, sorry, I was just going to say, normally it'd be counterintuitive, like to have like your fantasy defense, you expect to, dominate the other team. And then if that happens, then the guys you got on offense are probably not going to have to do as much. But for the most part, the Cowboys have just been stomping on people on both sides of the ball this year. They're still throwing, they're running up the score at the end of games. And so it's one of those weird scenarios where it worked out, but most times it wouldn't really work out that way for sure. So
it's very, very strange. I think the Cowboys will be fine. Just the Bills just needed to prove a point. I think the Bills have underperformed all year long. They finally showed true colors who they are. Their defense is very good, and when they want to commit to the run, they can. And I think they made a point with that this week. So good for them. Now Ricky's matchup coming up with Brock Purdy and Debo going up against Baltimore this week. That might be a little bit different. However, it is still in San Francisco. So if I'm Ricky, I still ride that wave. You play the two players and you go for it.
It'll be interesting. The Ravens have a really good defense. This is going to be one of the tougher passing defenses that the 49ers are going to go against. They play a lot of man, so it might actually be, there's kind of this thing going on where against teams that play a lot of zone, Debo ends up going off. He's the guy that can find those zone spots, turn. There's no defender on him. That's where he can break tackles and run. And Ayuk is just such a route running technician, and he's so quick and skilled at running routes that in man coverage, he's so hard to cover. So I could see this being a big Ayuk game over Debo. And then Purdy's going to get 20, 25 points. Almost every game, that's what he's averaging recently. So I can kind of see this being a big Ayuk game. And then, of course, McCaffrey, it's going to be only the coach can stop him when he gets taken out of the game. So it'll be a fun one. It'll be fun to watch. It's on Christmas Day, too. So it'll be like a little gift that we get to watch Christmas Eve or Christmas Day at night with Ricky getting his stack going in that matchup against me.
Ooh, that's right.
That'll be tough for you. You'll have to. You obviously want the Niners to win, but you want them to do it in a fashion that doesn't sink your fantasy team. So
just hand the ball off to McCaffrey. Just hand the ball off to McCaffrey.
All right.
Sorry, Rob. That's what we need.
Moral dilemma question here: Niners win the Super Bowl finally.
Yeah.
Or you win this year's fantasy league.
Oh, Niners Super Bowl. I've won this fantasy league 3 times already. Give me a Niners Super Bowl. That's not even close. It's not. I'm not like you, Manny. Give me the Niners Super Bowl. Come on now.
All right.
Yeah. If you
Good
told
at-
me
good
I
at-
would win 3 years in a row, it'd be a little bit closer. I get to rename the trophy, but no, I'm taking Niners Super Bowl every single time.
All right. You hear that, Ricky? So let Brock and Debo are gonna blow up. No, Ricky's got some plus matchups. I mean, that's the minus matchup with Brock and Debo going against the Ravens, but Raheem going up against
Dallas.
Dallas. After what we just saw, that's a plus matchup there. Mike Evans going up against Jacksonville. I would consider that a plus matchup, at home. And then he's got Ty Chandler on the bench. Bills defense going up against the Chargers this weekend. So that's a massive plus matchup for Ricky there. That's on
after what the Raiders just did. Oh man.
Yeah.
New coach bump. They could get the new coach bounce.
Yeah, that's true. They still, it's still Easton Stick starting at quarterback. So, but
Stick's for a long game. Yep. Yeah.
So that could be interesting.
Yeah.
Yep. So it'll be a close. It'll be a tight one, Cody. We'll see how it goes. You feeling good about your matchup against Ricky? So it's you. You guys are finally gonna get that moment to decide who was the Belichick and who was the Brady in this scenario. So how are you feeling?
I'm feeling okay, not as great as I was feeling back in like week 6, week 7 when he didn't have all these people trading him, all these players on his roster to help him out. He's got a couple of tough matchups, but his players are just so skilled. 3 weeks in a row he's put up over 100 points, which is in our league, in a standard league, that's a lot. 5 of the last 7 weeks he's put up over 100. And so I'm the underdog here. My little team is not really going to be able to try and keep up with that. I need Josh Allen to have like a classic 40-point Josh Allen team against Tim's Chargers. Sorry, Tim. And then Kyron to keep running it up.
I hope he does. I want the Chargers to lose out, so don't even sweat it.
Get a higher pick. Let's win by 40. Let's see it again with Josh Allen this time. I just need maybe if Ramondre comes back and Nico. My team's really injured at this point. I've lost my tight end, lost a running back, lost a receiver. I'm limping into the playoffs here. Josh Allen's really been carrying me. It's asking a lot. I need a big one from him this week. Otherwise, Ricky's just going to put up 100 points again and, moonwalk into the finals without looking. And so I think he's going to beat me this week. I don't think my team quite has it unless Allen goes off. My guys are just too hurt right now. I had a positive matchup, luckily, against him. So I'm lucky I at least advanced this far. But yeah, congrats on Ricky, to Ricky making it to the finals. I'm proud of you, man. I've taught you well.
Woo! Yes, I do have Ricky in the matchup as well. I'm moving Ricky across the Rob Alex matchup. I really can't. That's a tough one. That's a really, really tough one. I actually think Alex is going to have the edge in that game. I think we're going to see an Alex Ricky final if we're doing our prediction situation right now. What about you, Tim? Who do you got winning?
Wow, Rob used to be your man crush, and you're choosing against him.
I have to go against him now. I don't want to. Do I want Rob to win? 100%. I want Rob to win. Let's not get that conflated. I want Rob to win. I just think Alex's team has way too much juice right now. It's way too good. Yeah,
I think we all want Rob to win. Yeah.
Yeah. So Rob, I'm rooting for you, but I don't know, man. It's gonna be a tough one. What about you, Tim? Who you got?
For me, it's not that easy because looking at Alex's matchups, so he's got his receiver situation. Sorry, my dog's getting pissed off. His receiver situation is not great, and I don't know if Pittman's going to play. I don't know if Keenan Allen's going to play. He's got Jalen Waddle, who I guess if Hill's out again is probably going to go off against Dallas, but otherwise, if Hill's in, I don't know. So, and then McCaffrey, it's going to come down to that. If Baltimore's, in my opinion, at least from what I could tell, it seems like they're a good pass defense, but they're probably a tougher run defense. Obviously, he's part of both aspects. So, it's just tough to say. Let me see.
So
Rob,
let me ask this: did the Ravens put up at least 21 points against the Niners defense? Because that for me, that's going to be the difference there, with Alex having the Niners defense.
We just saw the Cardinals almost. Did they put up over 20?
The Cardinals rushed for over 200 yards, I think.
So,
right?
You can see that being the case.
The Niners are
Yeah.
banged up on defense right now. So,
I
mean,
Cardinals scored 29. I can see the Ravens get, although the Ravens do run the ball a lot, 49ers run the ball a lot. It could be a low possession time, clock draining game. You know, from that, not a lot of plays could be the factor there, but I could see them scoring 21 still and losing.
Yeah. And this game is really for Lamar to show that he's the real deal, right? I mean, if Baltimore wins this game, they keep the number 1 seed in the AFC. It's a huge game for them. And, you know, everybody's looking for that marquee game to prove this could be the Super Bowl matchup. Exactly. So I think Lamar's going to have a lot to prove. But I think if the Ravens get in that 24 to 27 point range, that'll make a big difference as far as how many points Alex gets out of that defense. So, but if
I just got to give Rob the edge, though, just looking at the matchups and the fact that, you know, Alex has Mahomes, Rob has Kelsey. They're up against the Raiders.
Yep.
We've already talked about it. It's either Kelsey or Rashee Rice catching passes from Mahomes. I think, you know, I want to say Kelsey usually lights up the Raiders. I could be wrong on that, but I feel like, you know, he dominates the Chargers every time they play. I think he does the same to the Raiders for the most part. And then got Justin Jefferson against Detroit, Brown and Hurts against New York. They're all three of those guys are at home. James Cook against the Chargers. It's just
good, great matchups. Great matchups. You as I'm listening at great matchups there. A lot of plus matchups for Rob.
Definitely.
Right.
I don't want to give him the kiss of death, but you know, it's
a lot of plus matchups. Okay.
You know.
Well, we'll be rooting for you, Rob. We're not gonna. Tim's not gonna say who's gonna win, but we'll all be rooting for you. So
I'll say it. Rob's going to win. Rob's got it. Rob's got it. Come on.
All right.
You're not, Rob. You're in the final,
Cody,
bro. You and Ricky.
I know you're trying to give Ricky the early congrats like I did to you last week. I know. I see what you're trying to do there. It didn't work for me.
Yeah. We all read through the BS.
Look at the little questionable letters next to my players.
It's I mean,
tough.
I don't know what's up with Nico Collins.
The calf injuries keeping him out, and if CJ Stroud isn't good to go, I mean, he's been my only receiver that's been consistent. Without them, I mean, my receivers combined for like 5 points total. No Mark Andrews. Goddard got me 3. I mean, looking at this roster, no one can feel good. If you guys like rooting for the underdog, support me. Please help me out here. I don't really have a lot going for me. Going against my old partner and Ricky.
You're the higher seed. You do get the home field advantage. So.
I do get 2 points. That's right.
I don't know if you're the underdog, but it's Ricky's team is definitely hot. So
hot, not cooling down anytime soon.
All right, so that's our winners bracket scenario. Let's talk about our consolidation loser bowl. Here we go. This is it. Loser Bowl week, right? We don't play 3 weeks in Loser Bowl. We just play 2. So we've got 2 matchups that happened. We'll talk about the first one very briefly because it doesn't really mean anything to me. Carlos, congratulations. You're not going to be hosting a barbecue.
Yep.
That's what I wanted for you. You just bought a house, so good for you. You beat Edgar. Edgar didn't even try. He had players on his bench that could have easily won him the game. He had players who were out who could have subbed out and put in anybody to try to win. So, how do you guys feel about that? How do you guys feel about someone literally making one move? It could have made a difference in the game.
Well, I mean, you were saying, man, he didn't really mean much to you. Apparently, it didn't mean much to Edgar either. He didn't even check his lineup from the week before, make any adjustments. No AJ Dillon, didn't matter, started him. No Chris Olave, didn't matter, started him with other options on his bench. You can only start one defense. He has 3 on his roster for some reason. Didn't matter to him. This is the quintessential. This is why he's in the loser bracket. I mean, some of these questionable non-moves that he's been, just riding with. There's been other times where he's had guys that are out and just doesn't check his roster, on Saturday night or Sunday morning. And so, he advances. I don't know what else to say. He advances in the loser bowl. And that's kind of what we expected looking at these teams. I'm happy for Carlos. He doesn't have to, he already puts up with enough with the trophies and making them and remaking them and doing the plaques. I'm glad he doesn't have to do one for himself this year.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it before, like there was one obvious swap he could have made, dropping one of his 3 defenses for Zamir White. to replace Josh Jacobs, who's in his lineup. It was on his bench because he was out. So
And
that
that's a
alone
victory right
would have been
there.
enough. Yep,
Yeah.
that would have gotten him the win. So, I mean, I don't know. To me, I don't, as someone who has had the Loser Bowl trophy, I don't want to see it again in my house. But
Or take a
maybe he
picture
wants
with
it. Maybe he wants it again in some way. I'm not really sure. It's kind of confusing, but good. Good for Carlos. At least, like you guys said, I'm glad that Carlos isn't a candidate for it again. So
I'll tell you what kills me about this, guys. It kills me about this. Last year we had a rule change. The reason we moved to a fab system was because people didn't like the fact that you had to pay money for every transaction, and that was his argument. Well, I'm not going to play the end of the season because I don't want to pay extra money to get players. We said, okay, that's a fair assessment. So we'll enter this fab system. With this fab system, you don't have to pay money, right? The people who want to pay money for players can do so, but you can still make adjustments with $0 bids and as many as you want, and you can play all the weeks of this fantasy season. We made this resolution specifically to avoid this problem. And again, here we are again. Someone not playing the game to the end.
And I think it was kind of prompted by him doing similar thing the year before, where he was out of it and wasn't making moves at the end of the year because he didn't want to pay for it. And here we are. This year he could have made moves for free and didn't. So yeah, I mean, I think the fab system is still
better.
It's more fun overall. I mean, I think I'm the only one that spent all of it this year. Some people barely spent any, but
Manny's close. There's still time. There's still time, Manny. You can still drain the account.
That's true. There is still time, but so I mean, I think it's better overall anyway. But yeah, just the fact that change was made partly because of him, and he's not taking advantage of it. It's kind of strange. So, but hey, if he wants that trophy again and wants to buy all the meat, host a barbecue, maybe that's what he wants. So good, good on him if he doesn't want that burden to fall on someone else. So
yeah. Well, Carlos, congrats! You're out of that running, and we're happy for you. Let's get to the real matchup here. Let's get to the matchup that everybody was pining over. I mean,
matchup of the week.
Oh, matchup of the week. It was lame of the week, game of the week, whatever you want to call it. It was fantastic. This was Andrew versus Angel, and oh my goodness. Talk about coming down to the wire. We were talking about how Monday Night Football had massive fantasy implications. We saw Drew Lock, amazing NFL quarterback, Drew Lock, throw a dart corner, front end zone corner touchdown to Jackson JSN right there. And he caught the ball with his fingertips. I don't know if you guys saw the catch. It was incredible catch. Angel wasn't even watching the game. Andrew was winning this matchup.
Which doesn't make sense because Andrew was up 1. He only needed a 10-yard catch from Njigba. So it's not like he was down 10, but it was a 9-point play. He won by 8. He was down 1.
But what? So how are you feeling though? It's you're going into the fourth quarter and you're still losing by 1 point when all you need is that 1 point. How would you be feeling?
Yeah, I would turn it off as well. I don't blame him at all. But it's over. It's over. Why am I even going to watch this? They're just going to keep throwing the DK. That's all they were doing.
Exactly.
I thought it was Lockett at first that caught that touchdown.
Me too.
I couldn't tell. Yeah. But I mean, let's just take a moment to appreciate not only that throw, but the one to DK that Drew Lock made into double coverage.
Yeah,
those were some excellent throws from a guy who I happen to think was not good at all. Like I didn't even understand why he was starting this game. He didn't play well for the most part.
No.
Yeah, like if Geno Smith's active and healthy enough to possibly play, why isn't he just starting? That didn't make sense to me. But hey, it worked out, and that last drive, those were some great throws from Locke. But yeah, that was definitely a heartbreaker for Andrew. I mean, he had Devontae Smith on the other side, who didn't do much for him. Got him 6 points. So, but Smith and Jigba only had 1 point before that touchdown catch. So it was looking okay for him. The odds of him coming down with that touchdown catch were probably pretty low compared to, either Lockett or Metcalf. So yeah, got a feel for him.
It came down to the last 28 seconds in the game. It's when that touchdown happened. 28 seconds away from victory.
From victory. Andrew could taste it. We should have got Andrew on the cast. I asked Angel to join. Angel was actually at the Carnicia pre-buying the meat. But once he found out through our chat that he won the matchup, he wasn't even watching the game. He said he started crying. I mean, this is a quote from me. He's like, I shed a tear when I saw the touchdown. And I was like, wow, that's great. And so he drove immediately to Target to divert those funds that he was going to waste to buy meat and actually give his kids a Christmas. So,
this year.
Yeah, his kids get a Christmas this year. So Andrew has no kids. So Andrew can
Christmas miracle.
It's a Christmas miracle. That's right.
Yeah.
That's you'll shoot your eye out, kid. So
yeah.
But Angel, we were all rooting for you to falter, and we were 23 seconds away from seeing it happen. So congratulations, so close. Congratulations to you, Andrew. Rahabi and Ricky wanted to see you holding that amazing trophy that we showed in the last cast. You will be now participating in that game against Edgar.
Mm-hmm.
I hope Edgar plays players that are actually active.
No promises.
No. Because I would like to see just some action. But other than that, if I think Edgar has tuned out the season, Andrew, I think you're okay. And I think you're all fine starting Washington defense as well.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. That big decision. Is he really going to come through with it? I mean, he still has Stafford and Cup. They really got, I think, almost half of the points of the rest of his team. He needs a big game from Eckler, and he needs Najee to, I don't know, do something. I still think his lineup's a little bit better than Edgar's, especially if Edgar's going to be playing two men down. I know Tim's been talking about it all year. I want to see that, the commies matchup. Let's see that defense fly.
You know who they're playing, right?
No. Who are they playing?
The New York Football Jets.
Ooh. Zach Wilson.
Yeah, we made the mistake last week of talking about it like it was this week.
Yes.
At least I did. I was thinking that they played this week, but it's actually, I was thinking they played week 15, but it's week 16. So, and he's still got him on his team. So he's absolutely starting them. Any defense against the Jets, no matter how bad, is startable. So
you fire him up. Yep. But, so Andrew's got Stafford and Cup stack going. Eckler's not going to do much, but he does have Cortland Sutton on his bench that he can pop in there. I'd keep Hopkins actually in there potentially.
You're the Packer. How do you feel about Jordan Love's matchup versus Stafford's? Looking at next week, Stafford has the Saints, indoors, which we just talked about. They're a tough defense to go against.
Defense.
Love has that Carolina team that, are they giving up on the year? They just got this victory coming off a high against Atlanta. Could you catch them on the downswing here?
That's a great point. They can start Love in that matchup. That New Orleans defense is too good, way too good. Stafford could get jacked up in that game. Cup stays in the lineup for sure, but
right.
Yeah, I think Jordan Love will have a good bounce back game against Carolina. Yeah, they're coming off a big second win of the season, but they'll come back down to reality, pretty quick. So yeah, it's a good
Thursday night game for the Rams. So, and it's at home. So I don't know, but Stafford's been just kind of, I expected him to have a bigger game against Washington, and other than that touchdown to Cup, he didn't really do a whole lot. So that was basically half his points right there on that one blown coverage. So that's a tough call. It depends on the weather, I guess. I don't know if Carolina is going to be more bad weather this week, like it was this last week, but I don't know. I mean, it's not going to matter if Edgar doesn't field the complete team anyway. So
yeah, exactly. Andrew's going to win regardless if
the Commanders' defense is going to put up 30 points. So
yeah, there you go. Yeah, the Commanders' defense is going to drive it home. I'm going to say 27 points from the Commanders' defense. That's my number right there. 27 points.
I think
Yeah,
with that
picks-
number, he'll end up winning.
Oh yeah, it'd be 50% of his production, and
Yeah.
enough to win.
Yeah.
All right, so we got Andrew potentially winning, which would make Edgar our recipient of the first annual license plate and January calendar that will be released in 12 years. So we'll see what happens. But Andrew, good luck to you. We're hoping that we'll see a good game. Do you guys have a preference on who you'd like to see that photo of for the January edition?
I said it last year. I called it last week. I said Edgar.
Edgar. Yeah, you did.
He took my title last year. It's only right that he wins the other title this year. That I'm sticking with my pick. I made the pick last year. I made it at the beginning of the year. I'm sticking with it.
Agreed. Yeah. At least after, I probably wouldn't have said it before last week, but then, it's like, if you're not even going to try, then you deserve to have it. So
Deserve everything.
At least Andrew's still trying. It's he's had a rough year, but he's still at least fielding complete teams and trying. And he's had a couple heartbreak losses this year in the last minute of games. So, that last couple of minutes of tonight's game swung a game in my other league. There's a game that was tied. One team had Jalen Hurts. That interception sealed their loss.
Ooh.
So that was
wow.
Yeah, that was and all they needed was like one completion, basically. I don't know, a 10-yard completion. I don't know what yardage they needed for him, or maybe a 5-yard run or something would have been enough. But instead, he threw a pick. And that was a great pick. So yeah, pretty exciting game tonight. But should be some exciting matchups this week in our league as well.
Oh yeah, most definitely. For the end of the show, Cody had put some crazy news. Romo's a member of our league, and he lost to Rob tonight, but he plays in a couple other leagues that we play with him in as well.
Yeah,
some smaller tier leagues, and in 2 different leagues. You explained it, Cody. It was incredible what we saw.
Romo, myself and Manny, we're in 3 different leagues actually together. One of them is this one. The other one is one run by Angel called Po Folks. It's for the poor people out there. He was in a matchup, in the playoffs, and he had a tie, 88-88 against Ruben, and so it's a tie. If it's bench points, it looks like he's going to advance on bench points. I'm not sure what the tiebreaker is in this league, but he had a tie, which is pretty remarkable. But then I run another league that he's in as well. And in this league, we play by decimal points, and he played my brother, and he had a tie in that league as well. I think both matchups were a 4-5 seed matchup in both leagues, 100.68 to 100.68. Bench points are the tiebreaker here, and it looks like he's going to lose this one. So I've never seen someone tie in 2 different fantasy leagues, let alone in the playoffs, in the same week. It's rare that we even have a tie, even in a league where there are no decimals. I think we might have had one this year that Manny might have won on bench points, if I remember right, maybe against Carlos. But yeah, this has decimal points to the the tenths. 100.68 to 100.68 is what the score ended up being, which is remarkable because at the end of the game, he had the Eagles kicker, and then my brother had DK Metcalf. So they were both watching down to the wire. Of course, Romo was hoping they would get a long field goal chance to send it to overtime. Ended up a tie, but it looks like he'll win one and lose one based on bench points.
Holy crap. The decimal point game is the killer to me because that's the whole point of that system, right? For that not to happen.
To avoid it. Exactly. Down to even the yardage. Yeah, 1 yard would get you 0.01 points.
I mean, it happens in DFS all the time in the huge pools. Yeah. You'll have a bunch of teams with the same lineup, but that's because they have the same players.
The same players, yes.
To have not only that, just that to begin with, and then to have a tie in another league in the same week
in the playoffs.
I'm not a mathematician, but that's like got to be similar odds to getting struck by lightning, I would think. Or I don't know. That's
or winning the lottery. We can go a little more positive with it.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah, that's probably better.
Getting plowed by a bus.
Yeah, run over by a bull.
I'm not rooting for anyone to get struck by lightning, but I'm just trying to think of something that's like
Rare.
One in the gazillions.
Yeah, I mean,
it would have been amazing if he could have tied Rob. That I would have loved it.
Oh my gosh, we would have had 3 different ties, 3 different leagues.
Yeah,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, first week of playoffs.
I mean, in my fantasy football career, I don't know. I had a tie this year with Alex, I think, but I've probably only had a handful of ties in like 15, 20 years.
Yeah, not many.
So that's, and I don't think I've ever played in a league where it's decimal points either. Like I've played in ones where it's half PPR, where you get a half, like a half point might make the difference. But
yeah,
when it comes down to 100.68,
yeah,
and then you get the same score, that's crazy.
Yeah,
it's wild.
Yeah, well, crazy stuff. A great way to end the show. Appreciate it, guys. We have our people that we're rooting for in the sign and final round and our losable round this week. I will have to make adjustments because what you'll see tomorrow is ESPN will move the 2 winners together into the same game and the 2 losers together. I'll have to make those adjustments so they're matched up.
We're at least aware of them ahead of time this year.
Yes, they're aware of it, making it very clear. So that'll happen immediately tomorrow. You saw I made the change after the show last week or on Tuesday. I did it right away. So I'll make sure that happens again this week so we don't have any issues with that whole situation. But the scores.
Well, us 3 are at least well aware that it's Edgar versus Andrew. So
good.
It'll be
excellent. All right, guys. So we appreciate it. Thank you for joining the show. Good luck.
Fun Cody. As always.
Cody, good luck. Buena suerte. Whatever happens this week, it's just yeah, but it's gonna be a good one. So we'll see what happens.
Go Rob. Underdog luck. Yeah, let's go, Rob. Congrats to Ricky. And let's go, Andrew. Don't get last place, man. Your first year here.
All right. Good luck, y'all.
Good night.
Maybe next year, Tim. Maybe next year we'll be back.
I hope so.
On the Titanic.
All right. See you guys.
Good night.